The three bodies of work are Elegy, The Extraordinary Beauty of Birds, and Artifact. This is a barred owl, and the following three bodies of work are each interconnected in attempting to explain the inspiration for my work with birds. Two of these bodies of work exist because of the Royal Ontario Museum's invitation to work within their museum collections. The first exploration, Elegy, was finished in 2012 and exhibited at the Royal Ontario Museum in 2012. The second exploration was The Extraordinary Beauty of Birds, produced in 2012, taking an additional 4 years to complete, which basically means I finished it in 2016. Eventually, I had a book deal with this work, and The Extraordinary Beauty of Birds was published by Prestel Books in 2016. The third exploration was Artifact. I began this work in 2009. I did not complete Artifact till 2016, after finishing Elegy and The Extraordinary Beauty of Birds. Artifact exhibited at the Gardner Museum in 2017. The backstory, these three explorations, was my relationship with a horse called Mao, who taught me profound lessons about life and about my work. We start with Elegy. Elegy is about life, its transience, its fragility, and its persistence. In 2012, we suffered the Gulf oil spill, which spewed thousands of gallons of oil into the Gulf of Mexico. Photographs of the oil birds soon became the face of this disaster. I imagine the relationships of the animals and birds affected by the spill, how it would affect their habitat, the ecosystems, and the relationships between each other and with each other in order to survive. I tried to go to the Gulf Coast when this happened to photograph these birds, but was told by activist friends of mine who were on the ground that it was impossible to photograph there, as the government had shut down the possibility of that for everyone. So I had to come up with another idea to illustrate what I was feeling about this. In working on this, the bones of an animal's remaining form mesmerized me. They spoke to the delicate equilibrium of my own existence, to the complexity of relationship and interdependence inherent in all living beings. Sorry, I have to keep looking down here to get the right slide. How would it affect the whole world? This is an armadillo. And basically, I became interested in the exploration about how opposition exists in nature, the struggle to survive, struggle of the fiercest versus struggle of the fittest. I came to admire the incredible beauty of evolution in this exploration. How life spiral in life is life's strongest design to ensure survival. Apart from the mathematical equation of the Fibonacci spiral, the spiral is a sacred symbol that represents the journey and change of life as it unfolds, taking a labyrinth-like passage that leads to source. The spiral symbol can represent the consciousness of nature, beginning from its center, expanding outwardly. This horn I found on a walk up a mountain in New Mexico, and it is a black buck antelope horn, and I do take a lot of walks, and I do pick a lot of things up, which you'll see evidence of that further on. This is an armadillo shell. What I found was the intrinsic beauty of a shell for protection against predators or the elements. In so many ways, humanity does the same thing differently, so we are no different when it comes to basic needs. This is a Tego lizard, and I found that the skeleton, the last remainder of a life, still retained the energy of that particular animal. Its life animation still present in its bones. It's what amazed me more about it than anything. This is a picture of the Lopata Dolphin, which is named after the La Plata River in South America. This dolphin can live in fresh or seawater, and it has one of the largest or the longest beaks of the dolphin family. It's known locally as the white ghost. Now, when I photographed the underneath of the skull, it turned into a white ghost, which I found really interesting. And it's referred to the white ghost because these dolphins are known to disappear if they ever see a human. People hardly ever see them. I became really interested in how function has evolved skeletal anatomy, its structure ensuring evolution to adapt and survive in changing environments. And this is the foot of a great horned owl. And the interesting thing about this particular skeletal structure is that it can, the owl will pick up its prey, but what it does is as it takes off, the feet will go back and lock so that it does not drop its prey in flight. And if you look at diggers and the big construction equipment, they are fashioned after these kinds of things that exist in nature already. Contrasting the great horned owl is the Canada goose, and how this skeletal structure of the Canada goose speaks to the grace of long-distance flight. The images in Elegy and the extraordinary beauty of birds were created using a flatbed scanner as the instrument to capture the image. This mode of capture speaks to the fixed image versus the fluid image, debate that has changed the art of photography from when I started. I started this 42 years ago. So our world was very different than it is now, as in most things these days. So we had film versus digital, and then we had fixed versus fluid. All images were created as if working on a flat canvas, composed as full frame compositions. And I want to say that I use a lot of different instruments to capture images. Sometimes I just use light, and that's it, not even a camera, nothing. And I kind of decide on what it is I'm trying to say and what it is I want to evoke, and then figure out how to shoot it. I still shoot on film. I shoot digitally. I use flatbed scanners, plastic cameras, whatever it is I need to use. Let me go back. This is actually the Javan spitting cobra, just in case people are interested. This is a common barn owl. And my debate was, what is an image? Does it matter how an image is captured if it successfully conveys the artist's thought behind it? Is it any less an image that matters because of its method of capture? Elegy and the extraordinary beauty of birds were an exercise in debating this issue. The Wolverine, this is a skull of a Wolverine, and it is one of the fiercest animals alive. When hunters see a Wolverine, they exist up in the tundra areas, and when hunters see a Wolverine, they run. A Wolverine can locate a hibernating animal and dig through 9 feet of permafrost to get to it. Again, I found that the shape had retained the energy of the skulls and informed the animal's state of being. Okay, this is a solitaire bird skeleton from South America. I've always been fascinated by the celebration of Day of the Dead. It's a common celebration of ancient cultures around the world. It's a celebration of brightly colored skeletal figures and decorated sugar skulls to celebrate the life of a loved one's eternal journey. On the flip side, in our culture, we see death as loss and darkness. This was a series that spoke to the Day of the Dead celebration, but it also, on another level, was about my father's descent and his journey into dementia. And I witnessed his loss of himself in so many different ways, and his disorientation in a world he once understood and could no longer understand. So it did have a smattering of that in this as well. And it is a series that hangs in a line. So these animated creatures evolve. And this is an avian embryo. The cycle of life is a continuum. This photograph speaks to the frailty of life and its persistence to evolve and adapt to ensure survival, much like we all do every day. But it's also about the same things in photography. We each have a voice. Activism is many things to many people. For me, my voice is my work. I choose to reveal the beauty inherent in the natural world. We are custodians of our planet. We have been given the gift to preserve the beauty of life that exists around us, much like museum collections enable us to preserve all that has existed before us and beyond us. We are all future shapeshifters of our Earth. Okay, now we go into the extraordinary beauty of birds. This was the second in the series, and it is about the limitless potential of life, its beauty, its abstraction, and endless options. The work is a visual document containing unexpected portraits and abstract ideas. Viktor was a Russian literary theorist who coined the term defamiliarization. And I'm quoting, "Defamiliarization is the artistic technique of presenting to audiences common things in an unfamiliar or strange way in order to enhance perception of the familiar." Defamiliarization is a crucial concept in the conception of art. By taking the familiar and allowing us to focus on detail, to open the mind and see with new eyes for the first time, this is the fundamental difference between nature photography and art photography. And this picture is a Cedar Waxwing. And these birds come up to Canada in the summer and go down to southern US in the winter, and they eat fruit from fruit trees. And this is their way of staying unnoticed when they go in flocks. And a big flock of them will go actually into a tree altogether. So it just looks like a huge fruit tree. Within the Royal Ontario Museum's ornithology collection consists feathers, skins, skeletons, nests, eggs, stuffed birds, and birds that have been frozen in time. For a few years before beginning this work, I felt as though I'd lost my wings and the ability to fly. As I worked within the museum bird collection, part of what I felt I needed to do was bring the frozen birds back to life. As I did so, I started to feel the wings that I'd lost start to open again. This is a blue jay. This work was an exercise in finding beauty again in the simplest things: an American robin egg and its nest. Shape, color, natural design, ensuring survival. These are common muir eggs and great auk eggs, which are laid on the side of rocky cliffs at the ocean front. This always makes me think of the 4 points of the earth: north, south, east, west. The mother, when these eggs are born, the mother uses its spit to attach a string to the rock face and the egg so that in inclement weather and winds, the eggs don't roll off the cliff. This is the King of Holland bird of paradise and the Wilson's bird of paradise. Now, New Guinea is one of the few places in the world that have no predators for birds. The birds of paradise which live in New Guinea, of which there are 40 species, have been able to evolve, producing magnificent displays of inspiring beauty to simply ensure sexual selection. The males could develop magnificently exotic feathers that would attract females, but not attract predators, as there were none, so they were able to evolve these displays. This is the kingbird of paradise, and these come off the tail of the kingbird of paradise, and they're on like wires. So when they move, these wires move with these beautiful emerald green feathers. and simply it's to attract females. This is the head crest of the Himalayan manal, and the head crest is what is on top of the head. This is the structural beauty of a mourning dove wing. The aerial ballet of a simple tree swallow, and I'm sure you know tree swallows, barn swallows, mud swallows, and that joyful flight they do, which is such a sign of summer, and the beauty of the sun is watching swallows dance in the air. This is the feather of a bald eagle, which speaks to its magnificent strength. This is contrasted to the softness of the great gray owl. And interesting enough, the owl, their wings are designed to be silent so that they are able to fly close to the ground and grab their prey, and whatever is on the ground doesn't even hear them come. And I think what also started me on this was the definitions of belief systems around the world with different birds and what people, what they assign to a different bird for what reasons. And sometimes owls were the symbol of life, and in other cultures they're the symbol of death. So that kind of fascinated me as well. We now have the red knot feather, which to me resembled a flower. And the close-up of the psychedelic resplendent quetzal feather. This bird is aptly named, and it is considered to be one of the world's most beautiful birds. These vibrantly colored birds live in the mountainous tropical forests of South America. So evolution-wise, they blend in with their surroundings. What became evident to me in doing this work is that birds in some cases became landscapes, and that they were the only creatures able to physically traverse Earth and the heavens at the same time. This is the head crest of the Ghanaian cock of the rock, which lives in South America. It is a bright orange bird with this brilliant thing that stands up again to attract females. The beauty of how feathers are made. This is the design of the two lyrate feathers of the superb lyrebird. We have the flight of the Cooper's hawk. And this is the eye spot of the great Argus. And the great Argus is not as colorful as other pheasants. Its display ranks among the most remarkable, though, because the male clears an open spot in the forest and prepares a dancing ground. He announces himself with a loud call to attract a female, and then he dances before her with his wings spread in two enormous fans, revealing hundreds of these eyes, while his real eyes are hidden behind it, staring at her. I always found that totally fascinating. And then we have the intensity of an osprey eye. Like other raptors, the osprey has excellent eyesight, several times more acute, in fact, than humans. Moreover, the osprey's eyes face forward, which provides excellent depth perception. Its eyes are key to finding prey fish in the water. So it can fly over the water and it can see 10 feet down, which we are really unable to do, but it can do that. And then we end the bird series with the black sicklebill. And these photographs of feathers and nests, eggs and birds are a soaring conclusion to what a meditation is on what it means to be alive, following an exploration of the meaning of death and its inevitable place in life. With these images, we take off into the limitless potential of living, its beauty, its abstraction, and its endless options. So, artifact. Artifact explores a narrative of transformation. It's defined in 3 series, the first being excavation. Every being, every action, and every thought has its own beginning and its own end, threading within the excavation of one's own life path. Artifact explores a narrative of transformation. There are 3 related series within Artifact: Excavation, Thread, and Matrix. These images were produced in 2009 and finally finished in 2016. seen after completion of both Elegy and The Extraordinary Beauty of Birds. Seen collectively and at a distance, the images create a planetary effect. It's like standing in the middle of the universe. It evokes ancient human cultures and mysterious celestial constructions. As we look closer, the images resolve into their essential materials: earthy mineral matter within stone forms, ashes and water unconsciously moved by hand on a surface. We are invited to consider another sort of artifact on an intimate and human scale. Something lost, something left behind, something carefully buried for safekeeping, or alternately exposed to reveal its existence. In 2008, my beloved horse, Mao, was stricken with a rare life-threatening illness that little was known about. For a year, he required constant care, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to try to save him. In my efforts to cope during this, I used to walk to quiet places, and I always seemed to return home with a stone. When Mao succumbed to his illness, all I was left with were his ashes and an inexplicable collection of stones to try to make sense of our lost connection. The second series in Artifact is called Thread. The addition of thread in this series spoke to connection in its various forms. In photographing these two elements, my horse Mao's ashes and the stones I had collected, the resulting images unearthed the vast constellation of celestial bodies and echoed ancient cultures present in an infinite swirl of dust. The addition of black thread in this series spoke to the connection to our past and to our future. When I processed film and viewed the context, I realized what had attracted me to all those stones I kept picking up. As so little was known about Mao's disease, I had to rely on my intuition in looking into his eye to figure out if he was comfortable or in pain, so as to try to relieve pain in whatever way I needed to, and this could change 10 times in a single day. Because of this intense, constant analysis, and without understanding why, I saw his eye everywhere I walked, and I collected all of the stones as a result. The eye of the horse contains their eternal universe. And I remember when I was in college, at Sheridan College, studying photography, I'd heard a saying which said, "The eyes are the windows to the soul," and that I have never forgotten. And to me, that is really important. In fact, it is that with a horse in particular, and with a dog, with a human, with everyone, we can look into somebody's eyes and we can see what is going on inside them. And this is really, you know, I am really a portrait photographer, is what I am. I just do portraits of people and stones and flowers and birds and whatever, but I am basically a portrait photographer. So I'm always looking for the internal when I do it. Doesn't matter what I am working with. Photographs of his ashes and stones combined became a portrait of our universe. The third series is called Matrix. The addition of water with the ashes spoke to something within, or from which something else originates, develops, takes form. A surrounding medium or a structure became the matrix of life. The universal thought in diverse belief systems is that clay is the common element from which life is formed, and that this matrix of water, minerals, and stardust is at the core of creation. Through this understanding, the connection to the eternal revealed itself to me in working with this. Only in abstraction could I find a deeper truth and come to terms with a deeply personal loss. Even though I started working on Artifact initially in 2009, I put it away as I could not comprehend the gravity of this work until 2016. It took Elegy and the extraordinary beauty of birds to lead me back to understanding Artifact in order to complete it. These three explorations were the journey to finding grace and healing in death, finding beauty in life again, and being shown that there does exist a continuum in the eternal flow of the universe. And there we have it, folks.
Wow.
Beautiful. Woohoo! Standing ovation.
You take my vacation. Yeah, okay. Anyhow, so, woo-wee, okay.
Very powerful, Deborah.
Yes.
Hey, you gotta do this when you talk, because I don't know where it's coming from. I just see your faces, Lorraine.
Is Lorraine. I just, am I allowed to make a comment?
Absolutely.
You know, because I went to Sheridan College with you, I have been able to see this progression of your work over all these many years, which began with the documentary style photographs you took, you know, the black and whites that were portraits of the people around. And I see this progression as you go from human to animal to bone to stone to all of the elements. And I see the thread from beginning, you know, right to this point where you go from the micro to the macro, and it's unbelievably powerful. You are incredible, Deborah.
Well, thank you. It's tough. I mean, these shows take me, I mean, The Incredible Beauty of Birds took me 4 years to produce after I shot it. And in large part because in the museum, they have to sprinkle this powder onto every sample that they have, every specimen, to prevent an infestation through the museum's collection. And what I didn't realize in working at this is that the scanner is an amazing medium for picking up detail, but it also picked up every speck of dust that I couldn't see with the human eye. So when I blew all this stuff up to, you know, 30 by 30, it was like looking into a snowstorm. So I actually had to go and take out every single speck of dust in all those pictures. But it was a meditation that I needed at that point, and I would just sit myself down in front of the computer for 10 hours a day and just go into a spot that I needed to go to try to heal. So in fact, life moves me through it. I don't go looking for it. I create a body of work, and how I know I'm finished is because I start thinking of another body of work. And I know I can finish this body of work because it's done, but I need to explore the next. And there are many times I have no idea why I am doing what I'm doing. But I trust in the process that I'm supposed to be doing it, and I keep going until I finish it. But I love photography. I fundamentally love the art of photography. And in large part, and I was talking to, where are you, Paulette? I was talking to Paulette, and basically, you know, I think I went into photography because memory was so important to me. It was the way I could capture something that I wanted to hold forever. And there was no other art form that could do that for me. So that became my voice, which at an early age, I did not have a voice, but that became my internal world. So I moved through it, and I trust that I'm where I'm supposed to be. And we are all where we're supposed to be right now, you know? And perhaps the things that we've lost sight of in this world, this gives us an opportunity to reclaim our humanity. I just want to say that. Okay. Thank you, Lorraine.
Deborah, I just have a quick question. It's me. I put it in the chat. I was just wondering, because you just said that you are a photographer, and
yeah.
Like, how did using a flatbed scanner with the lighting and everything, and like you create such amazing space it's so like each bone is so deep and so almost like its own universe. How did you do that?
I think in a lot of ways, honestly, I know this sounds pretty out there, but I think it's almost like you breathe a lot of this into what it is you're creating. I don't think it's as simple as just snapping the shutter. I think it's actually a state of mind that you're in that produces work that matters because you're connected to it. Now, the scanner has a particular kind of lighting, but I utilized that in this work. I didn't go against it. I embraced it. And that's part of it as well. Embracing what it is you're doing completely and in your heart. Does that make sense?
Definitely. Thank you.
Okay. Was that you, Paulette?
Yes, it was.
Some of you are frozen on my screen, so I don't get to know who's saying it, except I recognize your voice. Okay. So what questions have we got here? Are there any questions you want to ask me, or should I go through the list?
Go through the list.
Go through the list. Okay. This is Andrea. Andrea, there you are. Okay. Can you explain your technical process? Yep.
Do you remember shooting me? Okay, so I guess Carlin didn't tell you.
I do remember Claire Wiseman Wilkes.
Claire Wiseman Wilkes was my mother, and you did the Toronto Life cover with me on abortion, the controversy of. Can you remember how many years? Like 40 years ago?
It was probably one of my first jobs.
Well, it was one of my first jobs too.
Yeah,
but even then, for everybody else who's listening, it was incredibly powerful and had great purpose and importance and thoughtfulness, and there was nothing frivolous at all in the way that you approached this very difficult subject. And this is 40 years ago, right? Like everyone else can imagine. But so watching your work now, based on what you've been showing me, I can see you always, because I think saying 40 years ago, I can say always now, you always approach, no matter what the subject was, with a depth of emotion. There was always emotion in it. And thank you for letting me be a part of that from the very beginning.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. My God, I didn't recognize you with the glasses on.
Well, I don't think you would recognize me 40 years
ago.
No,
I saw you immediately when you said, "Do you remember me?" Anyhow, okay.
So that was me. My question.
Okay, that was yours. Can you explain your technical process for photographing these structures? They must have been very difficult. Now, in terms of structures, I kind of explained that. Is there another question?
No, that was one of the earlier questions when you first started speaking.
Okay, here's another one from Andrea again. How and where did you gain access to these specimens? Good question. And how long did it take you to find and photograph them? Okay, so what I initially did with the sulf oil spill, I went looking for birds, fully feathered birds. And I remember I went on eBay and I went looking for a bird, and it came in, and I was horrified because it came from Asia. And then I thought, my God, are people killing these birds to sell them? So I immediately stopped that, binding these specimens. I got in touch, research on the net, I got in touch with a person who stole skeletons, but what she did was she only sold, and I did look her up and stuff, and she only sold animals that had died in zoos, animals that were caught in, fish caught in nets, birds found, roadkill, things like that. So I actually got a number of skeletons from her, but it is extremely difficult finding skeletons. It wasn't an easy job. I showed some of my skeleton work to the Royal Ontario Museum. The person I knew, Kelvin Brown, who worked at the museum at the time. And he said, "You want to work within the museum collection?" I said, "Yes, I do," because that's the thing about a museum collection. You couldn't do this work without a museum collection. And when I finished my skeletal series, they then asked me, was there another show that I would like to do utilizing another part of their collection? And when I had been doing the skeletons, I was sitting in the ornithology room, and I kept seeing all these birds. And the weird thing was that I was dealing with death on one hand, and I was looking at life on another. So it is almost what prompted me, in a strange way, to go through the entire journey. So the Extraordinary Beauty of Birds was done in the museum, and there is no way anyone could do that body of work without a museum behind them. You just could never find all that. And I was given permission to go through all the drawers, and they had millions of drawers, and I would just look at all the birds and the feathers, and I would just pick out what it was I wanted to talk about. And how I knew that I had finished the show, and I worked in there for 5 weeks every day. And I went through a drawer, I found a bluebird, and I said, "That's the bluebird of happiness. I'm done. I'm done. This show is done." I did have, listen, the Extraordinary Beauty of Birds is 135 images, and that took me 4 years to complete. So I just have a sense of, my intuition tells me stuff, and I just allow myself to go there. So does that explain that?
Yep.
So with the use of a flatbed scanner and the questioning of what makes an image, how did you work with it, with the lighting, on creation of space while scanning these images? Okay, Paulette, I've answered that. How much digital manipulation do you do with the bird feathers? Interesting question. I have wrestled with Photoshop since it first came out. I refused to do it for quite a number of years. I watched a number of my peers fall to the wayside because they did not embrace Photoshop. I had a show in New York with my dog work, and the gallery wanted me to do really, really big pictures, like 30 by 30 of these dogs. And there was no way I could retouch the prints that were that big. The thing about dogs is that they have a lot of stuff in their gums and their eyes, and I do clean that up when I'm doing portraits of animals. I do clean that up. But I don't really do an awful lot more with Photoshop than what I did in a darkroom, which is burning, spotting, and dodging. So I use Photoshop like a darkroom. In terms of the bird work, the work was taking out that dust. And that was basically it. But there was nothing really changed or manipulated about it in respect to my using Photoshop on the bird work. It was burning, spotting, dodging.
Hey, Deborah, can I ask you to stop sharing your screen?
Okay. Oh, Lord, yeah.
There we go. That's a little easier.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Oh,
Okay.
It's very
there
interesting.
we are.
Oh, there's more people.
Some of them upside down on my screen, but there we are.
Oh, sorry. Do you want me to... I know. Lynn,
I can't see Deborah at all. Is there a reason?
Anyhow, I'll go on.
Can you
Thank you,
share
Karen. Thank you. Thank
you, everyone?
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I've got that. And I don't have her.
Andrea again is asking, will you do an equine exhibit? Yeah, you know, I would like to. But I will tell you that shooting horses is extremely involved because it's like working with small airplanes. And part of work when I work with horses is that they're free to come and go as they please. So I will shoot them in a barn or shoot them in an indoor arena, and they stand there because they want to be there. And they do what they want. And that's what's important. I don't have a halter on them and a rope and hang on to them. I catch what it is they want to tell me. And yes, at some point I would, but I actually have a lot more work to do with horses. Right now I'm working on 3 different new shows. And quite honestly, I really need to complete those first.
What are those shows?
Pardon me, what are those shows?
What are those shows? Be interested. Yeah.
One is, interestingly enough, it's the one I'm nearly finished, and that is a show on using x-rays that I have been collecting for nearly 40 years. And I started working with x-rays, and what's interesting is it doesn't, these images are not x-rays. They're sort of a portrait of our internal that look like flowers and look like the things we love in life. Although some are definitely bone structures and things like that. It's sort of, I think, going on from Elegy a little bit, but it is more inside ourselves. It talks more about that. And that is color and black and white. The second show I'm working on is I have been using my iPhone camera for 8 or 10 years. I keep it on me at all times. Whenever I am walking, driving, I always have it on me. And I find, especially when I was living in New Mexico, I moved back from New Mexico about 1.5 years ago, and I lived there for nearly 15 years. And the landscape to me is what held me there. I love the desert. I love the openness. I love the big skies. I loved a lot of things about it. And I carried my iPhone with me all the time. So in the summer especially, you would have these monsoons that would come in, and it was incredible what the weather systems could do. To a point, sometimes thunder and lightning, you thought you were going to die. It was so incredible. And I started going out and photographing. And whenever I drove, I had my camera. If I saw something, I stopped. So I have this enormous collection of my iPhone imagery, which is going to be another show. And it is from Ireland to Canada to New Mexico. It's wherever I've gone in the world. It's talking about the landscape and about that moment where you are connected to life itself. And it's almost like when you're working with it, and because the iPhone is so immediate, it's like you can stand in the middle of this and you become part of it. And that's the life you breathe into this stuff. So that's the second show, which I'm near completion of that. And, well, I'll always be doing that, but I have enough to do a show. The third is a series on botanicals.
On what?
Botanicals. When I moved here, I was amazed by the different plants that I saw, and leaves and flowers and sticks and all sorts of stuff. So I started collecting them and I started working with them. But that is probably another year away. I have to finish the other 2 first, and then I'll get to that. So, so that's sorry, I lost track of where I was.
So if
your
I could,
exhibits, thank you. Your projects that you're working on.
I just want to say, Deborah, that one of the things that's true about our new, or at least current reality, is that if you're not actually hanging a show in the gallery, if you're doing online exhibitions, you can do them as fast as you can hang them, shoot them, take them down, put them up again. It's like, so we just had a staff meeting this morning saying, you know, instead of doing shows for 3 weeks or a month and giving everybody a chance to come, we're going to just keep turning them over every week or 2, and then the shows go forever because now they're online. And so we're going to be doing these 360 shows much more rapidly. And I'm happy to hear you've got a couple more almost completed, because then we'll be able to do them fairly quickly. Not that we all don't want to stand in front of them.
Yeah, and I
pay
think
homage, we do, but this is the best we can do under the circumstance.
At this point, it is the best we can do under the circumstance. You know, our world is changed. But we will resume what's important. And I think what's important is that rarely do people get to hear how an artist creates something. And I think this is an excellent opportunity to do that. And in conjunction with having an online exhibition 360 is a great way of doing it. You know, it'll never replace standing right in front of a piece of work. And I just want to say that, you know, the role of an artist, you know, there's a saying, and it's the artists are the architects of the future. And in a lot of ways, artists feel what's going on. Lorraine Segato, you know that. Artists feel what's going on, and they become the vehicle of putting it in front of people. And when people see work, it's when your work is successful in a way that it touches people, it's because you've taken them a bit further than they thought they could go. And that is the role of an artist and of the work. And however we do that, it's important that we all have a voice in keeping going through whatever it is we are challenged with. So that is, to me, the important thing about being alive.
Wow.
I just have a comment.
Sure.
Hi, Deborah.
Oh, hey.
Corte, how are you? One of the things, the online shows are fantastic, but your work really goes to a complete other level in the prints of it. Yeah, when, you know, your digital prints, the prints are so beautiful that what's online is good for that, but to see the actual work, it just transcends everything. Yeah, and I love it, and I love what you've been doing, and you know that.
Deborah? Oh, sorry.
Yes?
Okay. I have to ask.
Is that, oh, Larry, is that Larry? Yeah, that's Larry.
Yeah.
Okay.
You had mentioned something about you're doing x-rays or collections of x-rays over the last 40 years. These would not be all your personal x-rays, right?
Some are.
Okay, well,
you know what kind of started it? And I've been collecting them, my father's x-rays, my horse's x-rays, my dog's x-rays. I just kept collecting them.
I have some amazing, I have some amazing x-rays I would love to submit.
Absolutely. I'm always interested in getting x-rays. I did have a vet, when I was living in New Mexico, a friend of mine had a best friend of a vet who was trying to get rid of 7,000 x-rays. And she called me up and she said, do you want 7,000 x-rays? I said, yeah. So I took my truck up to Colorado. You know how 1,000 x-rays are?
Well, they're all of hooves.
They're all what?
Hooves. That's the foot of the horse. Anyway, I have to ask you, this is really trite, but are you familiar with this book?
With what?
This is really trite and it's probably really simplistic. Are you familiar with this guy's work?
Which guy?
The guy I'm holding up in front
Who's
of
the author? You can't see it.
I can't see it, Larry. I'm sorry.
You know what? I'll talk to you in person later.
I'd like to see it. Sure, absolutely.
It's something that might, if everybody knows it, but maybe nobody knows it.
Okay.
Over.
I think we have time for a couple more questions before we wrap up our lunch. Karen Silver's waving her hand.
I am. I have to step away. I just want to say thank you, Deborah. I love your work, and I have some questions. I'll talk to you another time, but thank you. Hi, everybody. Bye. I gotta go.
Okay.
Is there a chance of having, is this archived? Can we get a copy of, can we find, is this one off or that'll never happen again?
No, you just,
the last hour.
You just took me to my next point, which is that we have recorded the conversation. And so we'll be sending all of you who attended the session a link if you'd like to see it again. I'm just also going to attempt to share my screen with you and just, so first of all, Deborah, thank you so very, very much. That was just really a wonderful hour and generous of you in the extreme. So thank you. You made our day much better. And lots to think about, to unpack. Coming up, we have more talks coming up. And I just wanted to let you know that on Tuesday, Adam Cohen is going to be speaking and joining us for lunch. He's an American painter. He's in New York, and we're looking forward to meeting Adam. We've been trying to get him to come up and do an artist talk with some of his exhibitions, and for one reason or another, there's always been a reason he hasn't been able to make it. And here again, we're having an exhibition of his coming up, and the borders are closed. So he's going to join us. Shayne Dark will be next a week today. You might know his sculpture, wonderful person from Kingston. Following that, Elise Teichert, Millie Ristvedt, Charlie Pachter, Lori Cozen-Geller, who's in San Francisco, or LA rather, and really a wonderful roster of artists coming up. You can see the details on our website. If you want to register for any of the talks, do it the same way you just did before, and send an email to info. There are a few seats left for the next few talks, not many, but a few. And we would hope that you might be able to join us. And so the other thing is, I just want to remind you that you can see the shows online on our website at Oeno Gallery. You can read the article in Watershed. We've got the link on our Facebook page.
Sorry, Matt, can you say that again?
You can see the exhibition on our website at oenogallery.com, where we've got the 360 view of Deborah's exhibition. We have detailed shots of all of the work, and you can read the article that's just been written about her, that's published in Watershed. The link is on our Facebook page, and we're happy to bring the work to anyone. We're still doing no-touch deliveries, so if anybody's interested in any of this work, we're happy to bring it to you if you'd like to look at it up close and personal. So thank you all very much for being a part of this, and hope to see you around again, and stay home and stay safe. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thank you
Carla.
very much, Carlin. That's fantastic.
Deborah.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you for showing up.
Thank you, Deborah.
Nice to see you all.
Thanks, Deborah. I'll be reaching out to you.
Bye, Corte.
I'm trying to figure out how to
See you
get off.
soon.
Where's Cloud when you need him?
Okay, bye.
I'm signing off.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. It has been really remarkable seeing you all.
It's been remarkable being here.
Yeah, thanks for that gift.
A gift? Was there a gift? Oh, that gift.
Yeah, yeah, you being here. Thank you to you and Carlin.
Hey, Lou.
How do I get out of this bar?
Lou, just before you disappear there,
Yeah.
Lou, it's good to see your face, Lou. And I didn't realize, even though I've known you for over 30 years, that you did Deborah's printing back in the day, or at least worked with her in the dark room. I didn't know that.
Best job I ever had in my whole life.
Well, how did we not know that?
That was,
That's true. That's true.
we did have a lot of fun in those days.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm really glad I didn't have to touch up some of those scanner shots. Just saying.
I know, because we did it all by hand in those days.
Yep.
But that was like 38 years ago.
Oh, shh.
Oh, I know. Yeah. But Lorraine, I've known since I was 21. That's a long time
That's
ago.
right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, Carlin, thanks for inviting me, because, you know, this whole thing, Deb, just before I sign off, and somebody's got to tell me how to do that, but your piece around your father with dementia, this is precisely, this whole death brings life moment is really fascinating. And I have to say, I just found this whole thing really, really powerful. So, you know, just even hearing your process is just deeply inside of me now, and I'm going to carry that with me and listen to the archive of it again, because I needed to hear this kind of humanity at this moment. And I'm grateful, Carlin, for having invited me, and Deb, always, you know, you've always been my most favorite of artists, so thank you.